I'm ready. From KCRW, this is Here Be Monsters.
All right.
Can we go grab the rods?
Yep.
Oh, that was quick.
We use them every day.
They bent a little bit? Oh, no.
Wait, they were always that way, weren't they?
I don't know. Must be able to pull in the water.
Well, should we go outside?
Sure.
Okay. All right, you coming, Dad?
Yep.
Because we got to start at the beginning to make this work right. Just see if you find anything, Mom.
Okay, I just will.
Just keep walking.
I have to go slowly, though, because I have to...
You thinking about it?
No, I have to give it time to... I have to wait so I know what I'm feeling. I'm waiting to feel what the rod's want to do.
There's something you're sensing.
That's right, there is.
Wait, what are you sensing?
Just the feeling that they're going to cross or they're going to stay the way they are.
I guess that only makes sense if the rods are alive.
It does. Anthropomorphism.
And just tell me what you're feeling.
Nothing.
She's turning and stopping, and now the rods have moved off to the side.
Turn.
So she's standing sort of in the middle of the yard where there's a sprinkler.
Trying to hold my hand still and not apply any different pressure on one versus the other. The left one is moving out.
Well, she's within 5 feet of a sprinkler.
And again, they're just in parallel right now.
What's the furthest you could be from a sprinkler in this yard?
20 feet.
Okay. So that's a little bit better.
Okay, so that's a pretty good tug there. It just feels like somebody has a little thread tied onto the tip end. Ah, they just crossed.
Let's get her to walk.
Dad wants you to keep walking. I grew up drinking water from a well. It's a good well. My parents still use it. The wellhead is out by the woodshed, and it goes down a couple 100 feet, and it provides us with more good-tasting water than we could ever really use. So we're lucky. A good well costs tens of thousands of dollars to dig, so people go through a lot of effort to find the right spot. They hire geologists to come look at the maps, and the geologist can make educated guesses about the locations of good veins of groundwater. But no matter how skilled a geologist is, there's always the chance of drilling a dry well. So a lot of folk where I'm from, they get second opinions from a water witcher, someone who uses a pair of bent metal rods or a willow branch to try and figure out the precise location of water underground. My grandpa could do it, my mom can, and I might be able to. I used to believe that I could witch water, but ever since I moved away from home, the idea has begun feeling more and more magical to me. Where did these rods come from?
Dad made them for me for a gift one year.
And what are we looking at here?
We're looking at these rods, which are probably brass, copper 3.5 feet long, 2 of them. And they have a 90-degree bend at one end, which is about 6 inches from the end. And other than that, they're nothing very remarkable looking. They're probably, 1/8 of an inch in diameter. That's all. Nothing fancy.
Yeah. You didn't buy them from the magic store, did you, Dad?
Nope.
Yeah.
No magic here.
Here Be Monsters, the podcast about...
Maybe we both have the gift. Maybe it's a matter of belief.
The podcast about...
the unknown.
No. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Peggy Emtman, and I'm Jeff Emtman's grandmother.
And you're a very good grandmother at that too, Grandma.
Well, thank you.
When was the first time that you heard the term water witch or water divination or dowsing?
When I was probably in high school, my parents dug a well on their property in the country, and that was when I first heard of it. And they used the willow sticks.
You've tried water witching before?
Yes, and I cannot do it. It does not turn.
What were you hoping would happen?
Like the other people, I was hoping it would turn like a Ouija board turns. That's what I compared it to.
Did you try hard or not?
Yeah, I tried with people watching, and I tried when I was by myself, and I still couldn't get it to do it. I used to be, when I was young, very disappointed I didn't have the talent, because it felt like it was a talent.
I think one of the things that like makes me feel really uncomfortable about this whole situation is that like when my dad gave my mom the rods, we all walked around the house trying to find the pipes, carrying the water in the house, and my mom could do it. My brother couldn't, my dad couldn't, but I could.
And did they turn in your hand?
Yeah, so the way it's supposed to work, you're supposed to hold the rods out just like straight in front of you, and so they'd be like level here. Mm-hmm. And when you go over water, they're supposed to cross. And so we could walk around the basement and like find these lines where my dad said the pipes were. Mm-hmm. And then we walk around outside, and my dad would say we were like on the sprinkler lines. You know what I mean? And then we'd walk over by the well, of course, and they would cross. And I mean, I can totally see that I just made it all up because I had quite an imagination as a child, you know?
I wonder if you're like the Ouija board players.
You think it's all made up?
I wouldn't say made up, but I can't do it. So I just assume no one else can either.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that really all it comes down to?
Well, it sort of comes down to that. If I'm not able to do it, how can someone else do it? Because what would that mean? But who am I to say? I'm not holding the rods.
I mean, my dad / your son also believes in it too. Do you
know
know where he got that idea from?
No, and I don't. It certainly wasn't his mother.
Do you think it's okay for people who call themselves Christians to be running around with sticks and trying to find water?
I think it's okay.
Why?
I don't see any harm. What harm can it do? I mean, you either pick the right spot or you don't. You know, I think if you looked up water witching, you would not find that it was classed as a mortal sin.
I mean, some people do though. Some people say this is like divination, and a obscure passage in the book of, is there a book of Hosea? Mm-hmm. In that it says like, hey, don't use your wooden stick to divine things because God doesn't like that.
Oh, really?
You don't have a Bible lying around, do you? Okay. Hosea chapter 4, verse 12. My people consult a wooden idol, and a diviner rod speaks to them. A spirit of prostitution leads them astray. They are unfaithful to their God.
I think you're reaching.
You know, see, we even call it water witching. We got the term in there, you know, or divination. I mean, what is it? They called it dowsing because that was more of just a German term that just simply meant, finding water. But now we've labeled it in such a way so that it's bad. I mean, it used to be considered that being left-handed, it was bad. It was near satanic. I mean, people were actually accused of being satanic because they were left-handed, because you were different. And if anybody's different, then that scares us, and so then we have to get a label on it that helps justify that fear. And you probably have heard many times the word sinister. It's just the Latin word for left. How dumb is that? I mean, see how we take stuff and then we run with it and we make it into something that's bigger than it is. People are funny. My name is Wes Howell. I'm a Lutheran pastor and a seeker.
Luther as a storyteller, right? And you as a scholar of the Bible and Martin Luther as well. You have an understanding of how story works and how tension works. And of course, like the best version of this would be where I come and talk to you and you tell me my mom's going to hell for being a witch. And then there's this tension between like my mom and the church. And this, I have a feeling I'm not going to get that tape from you, right?
I hardly think so. Yeah, especially since I know your mom and she's a great person. Anybody who would use that language even nowadays, I would consider to be highly suspect. And a lot of people just don't get it, that religion and Christianity, all religions change. Jesus didn't come and give us like this set piece that says, here is Christianity and here's what you're going to be doing for the next 3,000 years. Going back into Leviticus or back into the Old Testament, you constantly, even those pieces, you have to read the first lens, the first glasses that you read them through have to be Jesus. We pick our favorite sins, and they're usually the sins of other people because it can either make us feel in power or better than other people, which is kind of a power thing in and of itself. So be careful with that. Yeah.
And you don't think that running around in the backyard with a couple copper rods is hurting anyone?
No. So there are constant injunctions and from Jesus, about saying, you better be really careful when you start looking sideways. Take the log out of your own eye before you try to pull the speck out of your neighbor's eye. Take care of yourself. Get yourself in order.
To you, what is magic?
I mean, it sounds so silly, but, magicians use the word hocus pocus, right? We use the word hocus pocus, which came from a period of time in the Middle Ages when the Mass was being done. It was all being done in Latin. The peasants were like 100 yards away from where the priest was. And when the priest elevated the bread, he would say in Latin, hoc est corpus. See, magic thinking again, that was the moment where supposedly the bread was poof, became body. But the peasants were hearing hoc est corpus, and then over time, it gets kind of, hocus pocus, we do weird things like that, but once again, we don't challenge or critique or think, why are we thinking that? Where did that come from? Where are the roots of that? And maybe the thinking that we're using is old and outdated and needs to be revised.
When I think about why people find religion, why people, come to church, I think a lot of it is, we live in this incredibly chaotic world where there's a billion things going on at every time. And, I've heard people talk about going to church to find a sense of clarity, right?
Right.
A sense of calmness in all the chaos. And I mean, but at the same time, like, kind of what you're telling me is you're telling me you can't just walk into the church and feel like someone's going to tell you what all the answers are. And so it's like, if it's another place where you have to have your brain on 100%, where you think about these things critically, like, why would anyone come, you know?
Well, because that's what real life is like. And if you're coming to anything to get absolute answers, there's stunning danger in that, because you're setting yourself up. And it's an absolute mindset is really a scary kind of thing. And whether it's absolute in politics or absolute in religion or even absolute in science. Luther said, I don't care about the answers, I want the question. Why are you asking that question?
I've actually still never met someone who witches water professionally. They do exist, but they're rare. More often, it's people like my mom or my grandpa, people who use the rods to help their friends every decade or so, or maybe they bring out the rods at a party to impress their guests. Then they hang them back up in the storage room to gather dust. Well drilling is pretty rare, thankfully. A good well lasts a long time. Despite this, the skill of water witching is quite useful when it's needed. Back when my grandpa was still alive, we took the rods out to a vacation house in Idaho. The well there was bad, the water tasted weird and the flow was too low. So my grandpa took the witching rods and walked up and down the property until he found the spot that the rods liked best. We didn't see him do it, but when he came back in, he said he knew where to drill the new well. He wanted to confirm it though, so my mom went out there by herself to see where the rods led her. And she found a spot she liked, and it turned out it was the same spot my grandpa found. We dug the well there, and we haven't had a problem with water ever since. My family cites this story as evidence in favor of water witching. And I've held the rods before. I've felt them turn. It feels very similar to the planchette of a Ouija board. It's like a subtle movement that doesn't really seem to have an origin. I don't believe in it, though. I guess I should say I feel two ways about it, and I somehow feel those two ways very strongly. First, I'm skeptical. In fact, I'm more than skeptical. I think it's a load of crock. I mean, it's a tall claim, right? Like, you want me to believe that those little metal rods are able to somehow sense water hundreds of feet away through all the dirt and the soil and the badger's dens or whatever else is down there. I say, burden of proof's on you. Show me something more than these, like, familial anecdotes. But the second way I feel about it is the way my dad feels about it. And he thinks it's real, and he thinks that I'm in denial.
So I'm just saying, subconsciously, the terms that you're using are terms that make the listener, like me, say that you think there is some chance that it's a real phenomenon.
And how ironic would that be? Like, if I'm blessed with the gift of water witching and yet I deny it. I have held the rods, and I have felt them turn. So yeah, I think I'm conflicted, and I think that's why my brain keeps asking these questions about water witching. I'm sitting at the top of a hill beside a dog and the person that it likes the most. This hill has a name. It's called Smoot Hill. It's a hill that's taller than the others around it, and it gives us a good view of the setting sun. My cell phone is looking for a signal, possibly from the towers that I see off on the shallow mountains in the distance. The summer evenings are really nice out here. We're watching the shadow of Smoot Hill slowly devour a network of yellow and green crops below us. Soon it will cover the farmhouse that we walked up here from. From there it will cover the road, then more hills, and then the mountains where my phone is still looking for that stronger signal. This is land farmed by a childhood friend of mine, Ian Clark. A A couple years ago, he moved into the big house on the property and hired some of my other friends to come work for him on the farm and fill all the extra bedrooms. Ian believes that water witching works. So does Owen. So do Lindsay and Nick. I'm actually the only one here who seems to question it. Test, 2019, July 23rd, Clark Farm. Can you tell that I've slipped into my highly professional version of my persona?
You're using your golden voice.
I don't know about that.
The golden voice.
Wait, Owen.
What?
You're a water witch too?
Apparently, yeah, I guess I am a water witch.
Wait, but how do you know?
My dad is he was growing up, he was always talking about water witching. It worked for him, so he like called me outside of the house and like put the rods in my hand and then had me take a few steps, like 20 feet, and then I held them out in front of me and then the rods came together. Yeah. And then when I walked past a few more steps, then they like opened up again. I have no idea how it works. I guess I am one of those in the realm of if it works, it works. You have to like make room for stuff that can't be explained.
And it doesn't bug you at all that like the force that's driving it is who knows what it is like, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm not too worried about it.
Well, so what did Ian say? Does Ian say we should go grab some copper rod?
He says it does not matter what the metal is, so we just got to go get them. Just like this is the width of your palm.
Wait, Ian. You know, I mean, you're the actual farmer here, yeah?
I suppose so.
Why do you think it worked? Like, you told me earlier you think it's real, right?
Yeah, I do believe it. I mean, I have no clue as to why. There's just so many people who use it practically, you know, and out and go to find water lines and can like actually get into water and seams of water and stuff. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
That one's got that's a weird bend on it, though.
Well, I think we could just cut it off. Not magnetic.
No, that must
be
two
different
aluminum.
types of metal.
You got two kinds of metal?
Two different
kinds of metal.
What?
If it works.
If it works, it works.
So let's go find that line. So just describe to me what you're holding right there.
They are two pieces of metal, a few millimeters in diameter. The length of metal is probably like 2 feet, and they have about 4 inches down. They have a 90-degree turn, so they look like really long L's.
Yeah, that's almost identical to what my mom has, except hers are a little bit longer and they're made out of copper.
Right. Yeah, I'm worried about the ones I used before were a lot longer than these ones.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna try to find this line that Clark Farms put in while I was working for them. To put a faucet out next to the barn.
All right. You walk out there and also... That was lightning.
Yeah, there was lightning and thunder and... Okay.
Wait, Ian, come over here and whisper to me what we should expect him to see.
So it should cross over right about 2 yards in front of us.
I started out holding them too tightly and they wouldn't turn. The key, I think, is to put as little pressure as possible and just let them kind of move freely on their own. And then as you walk, you can kind of feel which direction they want to go.
Yep, right there. Yeah.
That is about where the line is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Owen found it?
Yeah.
Owen, I think you got the gift and I don't.
Maybe we both have the gift. It's just like, maybe it's a matter of belief, Jeffrey.
Is that... All right. That was a big one. Oh yeah, it is raining. Is this stuff, do we want to keep it dry?
The mic is fine.
Okay.
That one's pretty bright.
3, 4, 5, 6. There we go.
6 mile away.
Yeah, a mile away, maybe a little more. Yeah. So that was cool. Yeah.
So the goal of a witcher is not to find water, it's to find water close to the surface,
Yes.
right?
That's right. And how all that works, I cannot tell you. If it works, I don't know.
You
A
don't
lot
even
of
know if
people-
it works.
No. A lot of people swear by it
Why?
because they think it works. But I don't know if I had one shot at drilling a well, I'm not sure whether I would do that or not.
You ever held the witching rods?
I have. And they didn't, I did not have the sensitivity for it.
Can you introduce yourself, like say your name and who you are? If that's right.
I'm Asa Clark. I live in Pullman, in the Pullman area, eastern Whitman County of Washington State.
How long you been here?
Well, off and on most of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, except when I was working as a geologist.
Yeah. If we had X-ray vision right now, right,
Yeah.
and we were to look down at the ground of the Palouse, right, what would we see?
That's a good question, Jeffrey. I'll tell you, right here you'd see basalt. But, when you look like back here,
Yeah.
see, that's Smoot Hill back there.
Yeah.
And Jeff, that's quartzite. That's maybe 1.5 billion years old. And so this all had quite a landscape before the basalts ever flowed through here. And that would have been 5 to 15, 20 million years, is the period that happened. So a lot of those water courses, like streams, rivers, and things like that, were covered up by the basalts. But you would still get water flowing through those gravels, even though there's absolutely no indication on the surface that those gravels would be at depth, and they might be 1,000 feet down, or, or even 1,500 feet down. I don't know,
So just one more on water witching here for just one second. It's like, so you think the jury's still out on whether this is a real thing or imagined thing, right? But like, if it is real, just for the second, like we accept that this is a real thing. Have you ever thought about what force might be at play that's moving those rods?
Yeah, a lot of people have trouble accepting it because if it's real, it would have to be a physical force, not a spiritual force, if you will, And so what is the nature of that physical force? And that has been very difficult to define that.
Wait, what do you think it is, though?
I have no idea. That's not a very good answer, is it? I don't know. I'm not sure I can even speculate that,
I'd like to think the science is on my side, but doesn't everyone think that? That being said, the science to support water witching is extremely sparse, and the best explanation that I've found so far comes back to the Ouija board again. Ouija boards work through something called ideomotor movements, and it boils down to the idea that your unconscious mind has much more power to move your body than you might think. That your beliefs and your assumptions about the world can generate these tiny motions that are entirely undetectable to your conscious mind. And at some point, I'd love to make an entire episode about this concept, because I think it explains so many things in the world that otherwise seem really inexplicable. But that's not this episode. That'll have to wait. What I'm looking at is a bare green field on my right and another bare green field on my left. But on the left, there's giant hay bales rolled up in nice circles, just kind of scattered throughout the field. Looking for a log cabin off to my left and no name on the road. I'm driving out to Winchester, Idaho, hoping to find someone a bit more skeptical of water witches. I figured if anyone would have that kind of doubt, it would be a well driller. Oh yeah. This is just a 2-track gravel road with plants in the middle. Oh, here's the well drilling equipment. There we go. I see a long yellow truck with writing on the side. Brett Uhlenkott Well Drilling. Up top, there's a boom arm, probably 30 feet tall. Looks like it's running. Yeah. I get out of the car, and a couple minutes later, the ground starts shaking as the drill hits the soil. Brett and I sit down at a picnic table nearby, and he tells me he'd rather not be recorded. He lets me take notes, though, and I ask him if water witching is real. He says, water witching is a farce, but I have to be diplomatic. He tells me that it's his job to do what his client wants, and if his client wants to hire a witch, then that's their choice. It's a waste of time, and possibly their money too, but it's their choice to do that. Groundwater is just too deep, and the veins down there are often just a couple feet thick. There's just too much stuff in the way for the rods to be able to pick up on anything. When Brett is looking for a spot to drill, he puts his faith in his own experience, which doesn't rely on rods. It relies on his ability to read the landscape, look at the geologic maps, and see where there are other successful wells drilled nearby. But again, his clients pay the bill, so if the client wants to use a witcher, he'll dig where the witcher says. But then Brett says something that surprises me. He says he keeps witching rods at home. Brett tells me about a time when he was looking for a buried pipe or a cable on his property. He swore he knew where it was, but when he dug a couple feet down, he couldn't find it anywhere. He went off to find his rods, and then he walked with them around the property until he found the right spot, just a few feet from the first hole. He dug a second time and found the spot he was looking for right away. Brett thinks the rods do work, but only for things really nearby, close to the surface. It's not supernatural, he says. It's something to do with minerals. Or maybe it's just all in our heads. Ron, have you ever witched a well on this property?
Yes.
Is it close by? Can we go look at it, or is it too far away? Which way are we going here?
This way.
This is a beautiful farm you got, by the way. I was admiring your cows on the way in.
Them are not my cows. I want them to eat it down for fire purposes.
Yeah.
It's the only reason they're here. All we've got is a wellhead over here now, but there's 35 gallon a minute here.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I don't even remember where the vein comes in now, but I think it was off of this ridge. I got into this real late.
How old were you?
Yeah, I don't know. My uncle he said, I'm starting to get old.
Yeah.
And he'd witched a whole bunch of wells. He said, why don't you see if you can do it?
Yeah.
And I could. None of my kids can.
Yeah.
It's just, like I say, it's a chemical makeup of the body, whatever's in there.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
Maybe,
I must have it.
maybe you just ate enough carrots when you were a kid,
No, I don't even like carrots.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Ron, you said it's either something you can do or you can't, right?
Yeah.
So can you teach it, or do you just have to have it?
It's a chemical makeup of your body. And some people can do it, some people can't. Some people can partially do it, some people can really do it.
How many wells you witched in your life?
Probably 40.
And out of those 40, you said 39 of them were good?
Yeah, at least 37.
Yeah.
Most of them been good.
Yeah.
I don't claim to be good. And I never charged a dime for it. Something I used to love to do, and I'd like to still be able to do it, but I can't walk anymore. Not very far. My hips give out and whatnot. So, besides, I'm 81 years old. Damn it! It's time to quit.
Have you ever doubted for a second that you can do this? You think it might just be in your head?
Yes, I have doubted it. I mean, a well costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get $20,000, $30,000, and I hate to have somebody, spend a lot of money on my say, So that's one reason I don't charge. I tell them, no guarantees. I know I can find water, but I don't guarantee a thing, and just let it go at that. Yeah. And I've never charged one penny for it. They sure brought me a lot of cases of beer though afterwards. Yeah.
I appreciate you talking. Would you introduce yourself? Ron Leiby, professional water witch.
I'm not professional. Not professional at all. No. Nobody ever called me a professional.
You don't balk at the term witch, though. You don't think that's a weird term for what you do?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't. No. No, there's no explanation for it. There really isn't. I don't know. I thought about it.
What year did you buy that tarp, Dad?
Before you were born.
I can tell. I think that might have just slightly more frayed edges than I do at this point.
Uh-huh.
Oh, look at that.
These are arugula seeds.
What are those blue flowers?
Those are bachelor buttons.
Huh. Okay.
But they're kind of pretty.
Let's go back in.
Yes.
I was thinking we could talk in the living room if that's okay with you guys, because it's softer in there. The way I've been classifying water witching is kind of a folk practice or a folk belief, but maybe that sounds diminutive. Maybe that's kind of my now urban mindset trying to discredit something that everyone out here seems to believe in except for me, you know what I mean? But I guess kind of my question for you is kind of about this urban-rural divide that I see where, my friends in the city have for the most part just never even heard of it, never even heard of this idea of running around with willow sticks or copper rods and looking for water in the ground. At the same time, when you live in the city, you never have to think about your water because you just turn on the tap and it shows up. What is it about the urban-rural divide when it comes to water witching?
I wouldn't know if I wanted to classify it as urban-rural, but I would say that when you need water and it's a limited commodity and you don't have a water tower right beside your house or beside your farm, you don't have a municipality that's supplying your rural area with water, you have to find it yourself. And if one or two or three of your neighbors witched and got water and saved them from having to drill more than one hole, then you're going to have to think about using that same technology to find the next place where you're going to get water. If you're in a city, maybe that's had trouble finding water. Maybe you don't realize that the municipality had to witch in order to find enough water for the city. If your luck has not been very good about finding water, then maybe it's worthwhile, be it in the urban or be it in the rural area, to drill where somebody may say that there's water and they have let's say a 50+% chance of being right.
It's like everyone believes in it tacitly, and I guess that's a fine way to live, but it's like frustrating to me to have like a stance on what reality is that's so flimsy, that doesn't stand up to rigor. And maybe this is my way of being closed-minded, you know what I mean?
Maybe we would just be, if we were looking to drill a well, maybe we're just seeking somebody else's opinion. We'd just like to know that somebody else validating what we already think is true. I don't know. It's a good question. And I think also it's important for people to understand that most people who are witching a well, this is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It's not like we go around talking about well drilling all the time, and you're kind of the one that brought this up and extracting this information from us here.
I think that's a fair point. In like trying to explain this to people who don't live in rural places, I might actually make them more confused than less confused, thinking that all we talk about is like where's that water underground, you know?
We may be overthinking this, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right, and that's what I struggle with in all of this is like I get weird around like things that I categorize as maybe magical thought. And the fact that neither of you are upset by the idea of like this really black box system where you can see the inputs, which are like you holding the rods, and the outputs, which are the rods either staying straight or crossing, and not be bothered by that whole black box in between of what's turning the rods, that boggles me because that sort of stuff drives me up the wall, and it doesn't seem to even phase either of you two. You're totally happy to just let the rods turn and not know what's turning them.
Because we're normally logical people. Is this what you're saying?
For the most part, yeah.
We're pretty.
Really?
I mean, we've had our conversations, Dad. But the black box thing doesn't bother you at all.
Because the outcome is going to be greater than that feeling of, I can't explain it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
What's that mean?
What's that mean? If it took a little hocus pocus, a little bit of sleight of hand, and you said your words maybe would not be hocus pocus, maybe it would be. The outcome is that if you find water, that's great. That's what you want. So I think the importance of having water requires you to do whatever you can with whatever means you have available to find it. You're not as rigid when it comes to water around here.
I'm back on Smoot Hill, still sitting with the dog and the person it likes best. My phone's calmed down a bit in its search for a signal. Off in the distance, too quiet to record, there's the cries of a couple coyotes. And that's how you say it where I'm from, coyotes. Don't say coyotes or they'll know you're from the city. Anyways, the coyotes, the hill, the water witching. I've thought about it a lot, the water witching. I still don't think it's true. I just don't think there's good evidence for it. But I also don't live here anymore, and I don't really ever hold the rods anymore either. So I worry I might be missing the point. In fact, I'm often missing the point. It makes me wonder if there's the possibility that some things can be real without being true, if that makes sense. Earlier, Ian and I were walking around Clark Farms, and he mentioned to me that if he ever needs a well dug, he'd call up my mom, have her bring the rods out. I asked him why he'd bother. I mean, he can do it, so can a bunch of other people closer by. But Ian said it would be nice to have my mom come visit the farm again. He said he hadn't seen her in a while, so it would be a good excuse to catch up. And so yeah, I agree. I hope he does call her. My name is Jeff Emtman. I produced this episode with help from Bethany Denton. The people you heard on this episode were Kathy and Rick Emtman, Peggy Emtman, Wes Howell of Trinity Lutheran Church, Owen Prout, Ian Clark, Asa Clark, and Ron Leiby. More thank yous to Lindsay Myron, Nick Long Reinhardt, Brett Uhlenkott, Brandon Leiby, Mary Clark, Joe Hine, and Kirsten O'Brien, who very graciously lent me her car for like 2 weeks straight. Music on this episode by The Black Spot. I've posted a bunch of pictures from this story over on our website, which is hbmpodcast.com. There you'll see my mom's witching rods, you'll see the well drilling truck, the view from the top of Smoot Hill, and a bunch of articles on water witching and the idiomotor effect. Again, we're at hbmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Or you can give us a call. Our voicemail line is 765-374-5263. Here Be Monsters is distributed by KCRW. Our senior editor there is Kristen Lepore. We get additional support for freelance contributions from KCRW's Independent Producer Project. If you like the work that we do, consider becoming a member of KCRW at join.kcrw.com and tell them that Here Be Monsters sent you. Thanks for listening. More episodes soon. Situation here. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I've been hanging out with Ian and we went over to Ron's house.
Ron Libby.
Oh, Ron Libby.
Yeah, he was doing water witching for us. What are you up to?
That's cool. Walking up the hill. You guys want to go?
I might stay. You can go.
Maybe I'll take my little mics with
You should. You
Do you mind
definitely
if I make a recording up there?
No.
All right, I'll walk
Yeah.
with you. Will I get ticks?
It's getting a little late for ticks.
It's too late for ticks? Okay. I'm still waiting to pick one off me this summer. The last time I got a tick was on a private beach in Malibu. It was really? Yeah, it was right next to a dead seal. I was like, what is this? I was like, did I get a new mole? I was like, just scratching it, stuck to my skin. I looked down and it was a tick. It was stuck to me. And it was like the most like bougie place I've ever been in my life. And I did that thing with the credit card where you just can't harass it for a while. Yeah. It's like, I'm out of here. I was like, I'm throwing you in the ocean.
The little bastards' heads off.
No. They can.
That's how you deal with ticks.
No, they'll shoot their mouth parts into you.
No.
Yeah, you can get an infection that way. Just take a credit card and you go. Like if you were the tick, I would just go.
To get it out of your body.
Yeah, because it's like this is too much work. I'm gonna go somewhere else. And then when
So
it
it
does that,
was actually engorged in you.
it wasn't engorged, but it was engaged.
It was engaged. It knew where it wanted to be.
Yeah.
You need to do a podcast on ticks now.
I love like things that we hate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like ticks. Thanks for sharing all that with me.
Oh, hey, no
yeah,
worries.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just snag a different microphone if that's all right, real quick, and then
Yeah.
we'll go.